Welcome to She Rocks at College Live. My name is Clarissa. I am the life coach for college women, and tonight we're going to talk about how to study consistently when life is hard. So one of the things that I find college students forget is that life doesn't stop just because you're in college. Colds are going to happen, kids are going to get sick, hearts will be broken, you'll have setbacks, people will die. Things are just going to happen throughout the semester. And the thing that I find time and time again is that students really struggle with this concept that sometimes life is going to be hard while you're a college student. And what my hope is with this video is that you'll have some things to think about, some questions to ask yourself, some things to consider when you're navigating being a college student when your life feels really hard. And the one thing that I want you to take away from tonight's video, if you don't remember anything else, is it's all going to be okay. Even if it doesn't feel like it in this moment, I promise you, it is all going to be okay. Human brains just love to catastrophize. They love to catastrophize because human brains love to be able to plan and protect. And if it catastrophizes, it thinks of the worst case scenario, the worst thing that could possibly happen. It can plan ahead on what to do to protect you from the potential pain that's coming down the road. But it's not necessary to put yourself through that suffering. And what I want to talk about tonight is what to do when life is hard. So the very first thing that I want to talk about here is that I'm not going to tell you at all to push through. That is not what this video is going to be about. I'm not going to tell you to suck it up and just figure it out and get shit done, because that is just not the mindset that I teach the college women who work with me to have. The thing that I tell them over and over again is this: you are a human being first. And you just happen to be enrolled in college. You are not a robot. You're going to feel things. You're going to get sick. You're going to have thoughts. You're going to have emotions. You're going to have things that you need to get done. And you're going to also need to honor that you are a human being. Okay, it's really important that you remember this. Okay, so here I'm going to give you guys a scenario because this comes up a lot. The college women that I work with tend to be non-traditional students. They are working full-time. They are mothers. Some of them have chronic illnesses. A lot of them have had experiences of failures over and over and over again. And when this is the circumstance that you're coming from, these are the facts of your life, one of the things that can happen is that your brain will present you with a story about what that means. So your brain will tell you that because you're a mom, it's going to be harder for you to get things done. Your brain is going to tell you that because you have a chronic illness, you're never going to be able to study the way that other people study. Your brain is going to tell you that because you just went through a heartbreak, there's no possible way that you can pass this test. And that is the first step in getting yourself to study consistently when life is hard. The very first step is noticing what you're making this hard time in your life mean, okay? So again, I'll have students who'll get sick. Let's say, for example, you get COVID and you can't study for a week or two. Instead of just looking at the facts as, okay, I got sick and there were 3 reading assignments for my English class that were due this week, and I needed to complete chapter 7, 8, and 9 for biology if I wanted to be on track to make sure that I know everything that I need to know for the exam that's coming up in 2 weeks. And those things didn't get done because I was sick and recovering from COVID. Instead of looking at those facts and then making a plan, what most students do is they judge themselves for having rested. They judge themselves for having taken the time off. They judge themselves for feeling however it is that they feel. Let's say, for example, that you just went through a heartbreak, or a close family member or a friend passed away and you're experiencing grief, you will tell yourself that, number one, this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't have gotten sick. I shouldn't be feeling this grief. I shouldn't be experiencing what it is that I'm experiencing. And because I am, there must be something wrong with me. I should be able to just suck it up and push through. And that is problem number one. Whenever you judge yourself, you put yourself into a shame spiral. And shame and judging yourself is an emotion. And the thing with shame is that it's an emotion that makes us feel so bad that what we want to do is run away from the emotion. And what that looks like is not studying. What that looks like is not asking for the extension, even though you know you need it because you were just out for 7 days with COVID, or, a family member passed and you were dealing with the grief of that, or your chronic illness flared up and you have been in bed sleeping because of the chronic fatigue it is that you have. You make it mean more than what it is. The facts of the matter are someone passed away and you're feeling grief because you miss them. The fact of the matter is you got sick and for however many days you didn't have the energy to study. The fact of the matter is you broke up with your partner of 7 years and you're dealing with the grief and the loss and the sadness of that. That does not make you a bad student. It does not make you a bad human being. It has no moral weighing at all. It just is what it is. But what happens with students is you spiral out in the story and you make it mean that you're bad, that you're never going to be able to catch up, that you made a mistake, that you're not good enough, that you're not motivated enough, that you're not disciplined enough. And what I want to help you to see and what I want to offer you is that those two things do not equate. One thing does not mean another. You are creating that story, but that does not have to be the story it is that you tell yourself. You can just let it be what it is. 7 days without studying, 4 days without studying, feeling grief, and you made decisions from that place. And those decisions in and of themselves are not good and they are not bad. They just are what they are. And I promise you that the moment that you can just give yourself some grace, understand what story your brain is offering you, and you can allow yourself to see that as not true, not the case, and you can create a different story, a story that is more supportive, you're going to be able to actually get yourself back to studying, because that is really what you're afraid of here, right? A lot of students, you don't allow yourself to rest. You don't give yourself permission to feel your emotions. You don't give yourself permission to take breaks. You don't give yourself to go through the process of whatever it is that you're going through, whether that's the process of an illness or the process of an emotion or the process of grief or the process of whatever it is that's happening in your life right now, having to take care of your kids because they got COVID, right? Instead of just allowing and giving yourself permission to be exactly where it is that you are, you resist it, you judge yourself for it, you make yourself wrong for it. And that keeps you stuck, which is the thing that you're afraid of, right? You're afraid that if you rest, you're afraid that if you take time off, you're afraid that if you don't study, that you're going to get stuck, that it's somehow going to diminish your motivation, that it's going to take away your motivation, it's going to take away your momentum. But in the resisting of that, what you do is you actually trap yourself there because you're so afraid that you're going to get stuck. You create the very thing it is that you don't want. If you were to just allow yourself to rest for 1 or 2 days, I promise you that you probably will feel better than if you try to push through and read and get the paper done, etc. So step number 1 in getting yourself to study consistently, even when life is hard, is just like noticing the story that you're telling yourself. I just talked about that. Step number 2 is this allowance, this giving yourself permission to feel and do what is necessary for you to do in the moment to process whatever it is that is happening. So whether that's resting if you're sick or if your chronic illness flared up, whether that's allowing yourself the space and the time to actually feel the emotion that you're feeling, not run from it, not numb it, not avoid it, not pretend that it's not there, but actually feel it. I am sad and cry. Feel it. I am angry and do what you need to do to express that anger. Journal it out. I am feeling depressed and actually going to therapy. What you have to understand and be able to do as a student to keep the momentum going is you need to give yourself what you need. And most students do not do this because you are afraid of what it means. You are afraid of what it will mean about you as a student if you rest. You are afraid of what it will mean about you as a student if you have to take a semester off. You are afraid of what it will mean about you as a student if you have to ask for an extension. And it's that fear of what it will mean about you that actually keeps you from studying and makes you fall further behind, and then you create the very outcome it is that you don't want. It's the resistance of it that creates the situation that you don't want. The third thing that you need to do is you need to decide what you're going to do once you've allowed yourself to go through the process of feeling or doing whatever it is that you needed to give yourself in the moment to process the illness, to process the emotion, to wrap your mind around what happened, right? What are you going to do, right? So, okay, I got sick with COVID. I need to rest, okay? I have a paper that's due, and the reality of it is, even if I pushed myself, number one, it's probably not going to be my best work. Number two, pushing myself is probably only going to extend and prolong the fatigue and the cough and the fever and whatever else it is that's going on with me because I'm not giving my body the time that it needs to heal itself. And that's just going to make me fall behind in my other classes. So what I'm going to decide to do is I'm going to give myself 2 days to rest. And yes, that does push back my plan a little bit. And if I push back my plan, that means that I'm going to have to either ask for an extension or be okay with the fact that this paper is going to be handed in late and I'm going to get 10 points knocked off for every single day that it's late. Walking yourself through what you're going to do after you let yourself process is what's going to allow you to actually process and rest and do, because you know that there is a plan. Again, when you are in this space of resisting, I know I need to rest because I'm sick, but this paper is due, so I need to do the paper. Or I know that I am feeling really sad and unmotivated and depressed because I just broke up with my boyfriend of 8 years and I have to figure out where I'm going to move because we've been living together and he kicked me out, but I still have this paper due. And you're not giving yourself what you need in order to be okay. And if you are not okay as a human being, your grades are not going to be okay. You're not going to be able to show up the way that you need to show up as a student, because when our emotions are high, when they're heightened, when they're not being processed, when they're taking over our entire life, our intelligence, our ability to think through solutions and to think through what it is that we need is low. And again, this is what causes you to spiral. This is what causes you to get further behind. This is what causes you to get stuck. The way to get through this hard time in your life is to get through it. And the way that you get through it is by letting it be okay that this is what you're going through. The way to get through it is not trying to push. It's not trying to do. It's not trying to speed up the process. It is knowing that eventually I'm going to be okay. Eventually, I'm not going to be sick anymore. Eventually, I'm not going to feel this intense amount of grief. Eventually, I'm not going to be sad anymore. Eventually, I'm going to be on the other side of this. Eventually, I'm going to be okay. And it is okay that today I'm not okay. And what do I need as a student right now? What can I do as a student right now to make sure that I'm giving myself the time and the space to be okay. Now, listen, I understand. I was a college student myself. You're not going to get infinite amounts of time to get things done if you decide to stay in this semester. Now, this is a different story. If you have extenuating circumstances going on and you just need to take a semester break, take the freaking semester break. Nothing's going to go wrong. You are not a bad person. It does not mean that you're not cut out for college or that you're never going to return. It just means right now in your life, you need a break. Take the damn break. But if you are deciding to stay in this semester because you just got sick, that's all that happened is you got COVID and you had a couple days where you needed to rest, then what you need to do is ask for the extension or take the 10-20% reduction. That is better than you spiraling and spinning out in all of this drama and judging yourself and shaming yourself and guilting yourself for being where it is that you are. You're going to have discussions with your professor about what is happening. You are going to have to make decisions about what needs to move in your life, right? If I'm going to take these 2 to 3 days off so that I can rest and get better, what does that mean about next week? What am I going to take off my plate? What am I going to move around? What am I going to decide not to do? Where am I going to push other things back? Where am I going to have to say no to events that I initially wanted to attend when I wasn't sick and I had the time, but now I don't? And you need to sell yourself on why those decisions are the best decision based off of what it is that you desire. Okay, that's step 3, that what I talked about, making those decisions. Again, the biggest fear here when life happens and we feel like we want to give ourselves the space to process what is happening in our life, okay? The biggest fear here is that you're going to get stuck, that you're going to fall behind, that you're going to fail. And what I want to offer you is that those things are just a story that you are telling yourself. It's just a narrative that your brain is playing out. We don't know for sure if that is the case, that you are going to be behind or that you are going to get stuck or that you are going to fail. And if those things happened, you're going to be okay. If you fall behind, you can always catch back up. And I have a video on my YouTube channel on how to catch back up when you fall behind. It really is just a series of decisions that you make, and then you put those decisions in your calendar and then you follow it. And if you struggle with following a calendar, which is why you got yourself in this mess in the first place, I also have a video on this YouTube channel on how to stick to your study schedule, how to do the things that you said that you were going to do so that you don't find yourself in this situation, right? And if you're in a space where, you know, you're so far behind that you don't know if you're going to be able to pass and you're freaking out, I also have a video on this YouTube channel on how to not give up when things are hard, because that's what most students want to do. You want to give up when giving up doesn't have to be your only option. Okay? Now, I do want to touch upon something, which are the proactive things that you could be doing to prepare and plan for when life happens. Because the one thing that you can guarantee as a student is that it will. And this is what I tell my students. And this is something that I teach them inside of my program, Educated the Art of Becoming a Good Student. I have an entire module on creating your schedule and what to do when shit happens, because shit is always going to happen. And I have them start thinking ahead of time. What will you do if you do fall behind? What will you do if you get sick? What will you do if the babysitter falls through or the nanny falls through and now you're stuck with the kids for an entire week when she normally watches them for you to study? Or what are you going to do if you have to drop everything and go back to your home country because a family member passed, right? What are you going to do if these situations happen? When you create a plan of this is what I'm going to do in this type of a situation ahead of time. You do not fear when these things happen because there's a protocol in place. There's a plan in place. You prepared for it ahead of time. And my students know that shit's going to happen. They know that life is going to happen. And so we build into their schedule buffer time, right? This is time in your schedule that is left blank just in case things like this happen. You end up getting sick, right? I have some students who have chronic fatigue issues, who have chronic illnesses that can flare up at any time, and they don't really know. And so the way that I teach them to schedule is that they give themselves ample amount of time to work through things because they know that they're going to have days where they're going to be in bed sick all day. They don't have the energy to do work, and it's not a problem because they planned for that. They know that that's a part of their lifestyle. They know that that's a part of them being human, and that they have to account that there are going to be days that they can't really tell when they're going to happen, but because of the way that they plan and this built-in buffer time, and they also have these things in place, right? It's like, I know that, if I start getting a flare-up a few days before an assignment is due, the one thing I do is I start asking for an extension with my professor, start having those conversations. And again, all of this allows you to maintain the momentum, to keep it going, which is what you mean when you say study consistently. It's not that you're studying every single day, because I know most of you are not studying every single day. Let's just be real. I know that's not happening. What you say when you ask me, how can I study consistently even when I'm sick? The question behind that really is, what do I do? Because I know I'm not going to study. What do I do because I know I'm not studying? What do I do because I fell behind, right? And the first thing that you have to do is, number one, decide what you're going to make it mean. Number two, allow yourself and give yourself the permission and the time that you need to get through that. Number three, make the decisions on what you're going to do once you've recovered. And number four, actually start thinking about these things ahead of time. Be proactive with it, okay? So, the one thing that I want to say here as well is, so many students make getting an extension a bad thing. It's what it's there for. I'm not saying that your professor is going to grant you an extension every single time you ask for it. But what I am saying is, if you need it, ask for it. Have your own back. Give yourself every opportunity that you can to succeed the way it is that you want. This narrative and this story that you have in your mind about being behind and asking for extensions and not following your schedule to a T is just that. It's a story you're telling yourself. It is not a fact of life. It is not a rule book about how to be a good student. No such book exists. We all get to just make it up. We all just get to decide what things mean to us and about us. Life is going to happen. You are going to feel things. You are going to experience things. You're going to have setbacks. And the thing that is going to allow you to succeed as a student is not making yourself wrong for that. The thing that's going to allow you to succeed beyond your wildest dreams, no matter what happens to you, no matter how many classes you fail, no matter how many times you get sick, no matter how many extensions you need, is letting it be okay. This does not mean that you're always going to fall behind. This does not mean that you're always going to need an extension. It just means that when I do, I still get to have what I want. I still get to be a successful student. I still get to have the grades it is that I want. I still get to consider this a successful semester. This is so important for you all to understand. It is okay to be a human. It is okay to need time. It is okay to get sick. It is okay to have to take time off. It is okay to fail. It is okay. Nothing has gone wrong. Nothing has gone wrong. These are just things that happen. And you get to decide what it means. You get to decide what happens. You get to decide how this story ends. Even consistency is a bullshit term that's made up. You get to decide what consistently studying when you're sick looks like. It can look like I take 2 days off to rest, and then I create a plan to catch back up, and I follow that plan. And that is me consistently studying when I'm sick. If you have a breakup with the partner or something, and you're so in your head about what happened and you're replaying the conversation over and over again, and it's making it hard to really concentrate, and it normally takes you an hour to get through a reading assignment, but now it's taking you 2 because every time you read a word, it's reminding you about what this person said, and you're having to come back and refocus. It is okay. It is fine. That is just what is happening right now. Nothing has gone wrong. What do you want? How do you want to feel? What do you want to do? Do we need to look at your schedule and move things around because for the next week, this is probably what's going to happen? Great, let's do that. That's what you need right now. When you approach your college experience in this way, when you don't make things mean things that they don't mean, when you allow yourself to pivot and to adjust and to change plans and to make decisions, and you're proactive at the same time, and you expect yourself to still succeed, this is how you become the type of student who can handle it all. Not because you're numbing, not because you don't make yourself wrong for what's happening. Because you're emotionally intelligent. Because you've been watching my YouTube videos and you know exactly what to do to catch back up if you fall behind. Because you know that none of this means anything. Because you know that you're always in control of your results. Because you know that all of this is okay. Because you know there's always another option, another opportunity to get what it is that you want. This right here, this mindset, these skills of knowing how to think, how to make decisions, how to process your emotions, how to create stories that actually support you as a student. This is everything that I teach my students. This is why I am the life coach for college students. Because everything that will happen to you in a semester has happened to me in a semester. Life has happened to me throughout the semester. I've had a ton of shit go down. Right? My mom came out gay one year when I was in college. Changed my entire family dynamic. I went from living on campus to moving back home because my dad had suicidal ideation and an attempt. Got told to my face that I would never succeed, that I wasn't smart enough. I failed over 7 classes. Got sick a bunch of times. I chose not to study for weeks and months at a time and then thought that it would be enough to study the night before. And through all of that, I managed to graduate with honors while working 2 jobs, being in a relationship with my partner that wasn't great at the time. We had to work through all of that. And the thing that allowed me to get through all of that, the thing that allowed me to get to graduation, was that I learned to not make it mean anything. These are just things that happen, and they don't determine whether or not I graduate or not. They don't determine whether or not I succeed. I determine that. How I move through this, how I show up through this, that's what determines what happens at the end. And these are skills that you have to learn as students. And I believe that on my YouTube channel, I have a video called like the 5 skills that the most successful college students know. And I walk you through these main skills that you're gonna need to develop as a student to be able to handle hard shit, to handle life happening. So what I'm going to do now, because that pretty much concludes the video, is I'm going to just recap what I said, right? So the way that you consistently study, even when life is hard, is number 1, you don't make it mean things that it does not mean. You decide the story that you're going to tell yourself about this hard time in your life. You get to decide how the story ends. Pay attention to what you're making it mean. And if you're making it mean things that are not supporting the goals that you have as a student, you need to change that story. Thing number 2 is you need to allow and give yourself permission to give yourself what it is that you need in that moment. Whether it's rest, whether it's therapy, whether it's a semester off, whether it's an extension, whether it's withdrawing from the class, whether it's taking an incomplete and finishing it over the summertime, whatever you need to get through that time, whether it's just sleeping all day for one day and then rearranging your schedule, whether it's saying no to certain events, what do you need to get through this time? What do you need to be okay? And then number 3 is, what are you gonna do at the end of that time frame? What decisions are you going to make? How are you going to get yourself to complete the things that need to be completed? Are you going to have conversations with your professors? Are you going to move things around? What are the decisions that you're going to make about what you're going to do once you've given yourself that time? I mentioned a couple videos that you can watch, right? So if you find yourself in this situation where life is hard because, let's say, you have 7 assignments due because you waited until the last minute, a good video for you to watch is how to stick to your schedule so that this doesn't happen. If you do find yourself needing to take some time off because you got sick or a child got sick or something like that, how to catch back up when you've fallen behind is a great video. I walk you through the every decision that you need to make in order to get yourself back on track, and I show you how to plug that into your calendar so that it gets done. And then if you're finding yourself that life is so hard that you're at the point that you want to give up, I have a video on this channel called How to Not Give Up, how to not quit on yourself when life is hard. I'm gonna just look over at the comments just to see. Yeah, Kimberly said, I love your example of being consistent going to the dentist twice a year. Yeah, if you go to the dentist twice a year, technically you're consistent with going to the dentist. That's consistently, right? If you go to the gym 1 day a month for 12 months, you've consistently gone to the gym for 12 months. You just get to decide what consistent means. Lisa says, I have a child with special needs and want to go back to school, and I'm afraid of his medical issues, and I'm his mom and caregiver, and I get depressed dealing with certain issues. I'm nervous. It's okay to be nervous. But the only reason why you're nervous is because the story that you're telling yourself is that it's going to be hard, and it is, but the fact you're making that the fact that it's going to be hard a problem, right? It's going to be hard, and what are you making that mean that it's going to be hard? Oh, I won't be able to get the grade it is that I want, and I won't be able to take the amount of classes it is that I want, and I won't be able to graduate at the time frame that it is that I want. That may be true, so you adjust. What can you do? How many classes can you take? What are the things that you're going to have in place to help you process these emotions of depression and these emotions of anxiety and this nervousness? You can absolutely put a plan in place. to help you to achieve your goal and take care of your child. But your brain is giving you an all or nothing type of mindset right now. It's either I care for my child really, really well and I'm a great mom to him, or I accomplish my degree. And what I want to offer you, Lisa, is that there is a world where both can coexist. You just have to be willing to let it look however it needs to look for you so that you can be the mom it is that you want and also achieve your goals. This may mean that instead of graduating in 2 to 4 years, it takes you 4 to 6. This may mean that instead of taking a full class load, you do one class at a time. This may mean that you need to have a letter from the doctor of your child that you give to your professors so that they know ahead of time that you're going to need extensions or that you might ask for them, right? There is a way to allow yourself to still show up the way it is that you desire, even when life presents you with things that are not what society considers to be the norm. But if you're judging yourself, if you're making yourself wrong, if you're creating stories about why you can and cannot, listen, if I got accommodations, you better believe that I'm going to use them. For sure. Absolutely. I don't care what you think about me. If it's going to help me to learn the information better, if it's going to help me to be able to earn a better grade, I'm going to do what I need to do. All right, everyone. So that is going to conclude tonight's video. Thank you so much for being here with me live. This show happens on Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern normally, but because yesterday was a holiday, I did it tonight, Tuesday at 7 p.m. But I had so many people on tonight that I might just switch it to this day. No, I'm going to keep it on Mondays at 1 p.m. And that is going to conclude this video. Once this video renders, I will put all the links to the videos that I mentioned inside of the description box. And Mickey asked, you can do that in an hour. You can ask for extensions in any program. I'm not saying that you're going to get them, but you can ask, right? You absolutely can take breaks. You can do whatever you want. You just have to be willing to ask and also be willing to be okay if they say no. And if they do say no, what's your next plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to make it work, right? All right. Grace, thank you so much. I love that you love my videos. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your week. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I respond to all of my comments on my YouTube video because I don't get that many. And so I'm able to respond to all of them. So if you do have any follow-up questions, you want my eyes on something, you want my feedback on something, I'm more than willing and so gracious with my responses. Have a great night. Bye.